before we begin, first of all, Ramadan Kareem to all those fasting and hope this month brings you lots of tranquility to your hearts and lives. We are joined today by a very special guest, Mr. Futoshi Matsumoto, the former Japanese ambassador to Iraq, also served before in Syria and New York. Irie Samase and Ahlan wa Sahlan to our channel, Mr. Matsumoto.
Ahlan wa sahlan, everybody. Thank you so much. Oh, that's a very good question. Actually, when I was studying, at the University of Tokyo, well, I didn't like to work. I was a lazy student, So I was looking for what kind of job, that might suit me, in the future. And it was in the middle of 1980s in Japan. As you may know, Japan was on the, summit of, everything. Japanese economy was just boom. So all my senpai, senior people, were enjoying, their lives, working in big companies. Meanwhile, trying to get a, PhD and others, were, of course, leading, very modest life. So I thought twice. If I stay in the college, forever, studying for PhD or something, maybe, I might end up in rather miserable life. But meanwhile, I didn't really want to work. So somebody told me, if you join, foreign services, Japanese Foreign Ministry would give you, 2 to 3 years, to study abroad, with, of course, nice salary and a diplomatic passport. Oh, that sounds nice. Yeah, that was, sort of thinking, at the time for me. So I studied a little bit, and I passed the, diplomatic, examination, and then joined the foreign services. And they sent me, to Cairo to study Arabic. And actually, I was studying Arabic, in college as well. And I was interested in the, modern history of the Middle East. So it was really perfect, for me to given, such chance, to start my, diplomatic life, by, starting to learn, language, beautiful language, Arabic. So that was sort of, the beginning of, my professional life.
Could you sort of share your experiences as the ambassador of Japan to Iraq? Like, just how did the people welcome you? How did they perceive the Japanese?
Well, I really enjoyed being in Baghdad for 2 years and 1 month because people are so nice, to me always. And I was also being liked, by, Iraqi people, all in all. And I had a enormous, interest in Iraq, even before, I was coming to Baghdad because I had so many Iraqi friends in the past 30 some years. Ever since I was studying Arabic in Cairo with a private Arabic tutor. He was from Hilla, Iraq. So my friendship with Iraqi people, got developed, ever since, since late, 1980s. So that included all political exiles here and there, Cairo, Damascus, Paris, London, Tehran, Qom. So eventually, I got to know all the leadership of, Iraqi opposition before 2003. So my, friendship and also, knowledge about the Iraqi society was, enormous actually, before I was coming to Baghdad. So I was expecting, one day I would end up, in Baghdad, working professionally and to strengthen, bilateral relation between Japan and Iraq. So in that sense, I think my fate was written, in Arabic, they sometimes say, maktub, it's written, right? So I really felt like that, when, my government provided, this chance, to become, full ambassador to Iraq.
What were the main sort of areas of cooperation between the two countries during your time as an ambassador in Iraq?
Well, it's very diverse, actually. You may know Japan has been assisting Iraq, particularly ever since the war, 2003, and our contribution totaled more than $20 billion, which includes grant assistance, humanitarian support, as well as huge loans. With gigantic, concessionary loans, we provided more than 30 big projects in Iraq. When I was in Iraq, the major, project was in Basra to build, huge refinery, which would cost, more than $4 billion. Through those assistance, we have huge networks here and there, in Iraq, from Basra, Baghdad to Mosul and Kurdistan as well. So that's one of the major, work. I have to, really, engage myself. In addition to that, business relation between Iraq and Japan has been developing, so fast, being represented by, strong presence of, Japanese automotive, companies like a Toyota Iraq, for instance. And in addition to that, I helped, many Japanese companies to come to Iraq and to start, their business. So that's second pillar. And also, human-to-human contact is very critical, for all of us. So I try to visit everywhere in Iraq, from schools to any, minority communities like mosque and churches, etc., etc. So I try to also present myself through social media, Instagram, and also Twitters, and so on, so that Iraqi people could have a good image of Japanese people through me. And I did a lot, in that sense, for or strengthening, culture, sort of, relations. I also gave, a lot of speeches in universities and think tanks. And I tried to particularly provide Iraqis with how Japan succeeded in its modernization. Through such lectures, I thought Iraqi people could learn from Japanese experiences. So all in all, those are major things I tried to do in Iraq while I was there.
As you said earlier, that you had an extensive knowledge of the language. You studied it before as well, and then you've been in the region. So just based from your experience, how do you see the future of Japan-Iraq relations?
In one word, its potential is so big. Or I could say, it's not yet, developed. So because Iraq is a fairly huge country, and with abundance of natural resources. So obviously, Japan, remain to be dependent upon all the oil and gas coming from the Middle East. Such dependency is very high, becoming over 90% of oil is coming from the Middle East. So we need to have very stable relations and cordial relations with number of oil producing Middle Eastern countries in particular, and Iraq is of course one of those countries, and our relation should be further developed in the long future. In that sense, we think that our relation with Iraq is quite critical for the future. Sort of how do I say, safeguarding of our natural resources from the region.
Have you got any sort of tips for students looking to enter diplomacy anywhere around the world? Something that you learned from?
Um, well, that's a good question. Perhaps, as I become, full professor very soon in Japan, being seconded from Foreign Ministry of Japan, most likely, this question will be, asked, on a number of, occasions very soon. Um, well, diplomacy is a sort of, art of, keeping, nations close together. So your individual capacity as a person, charming and attractive to others, is a critical, to nurture even, friendship between, countries. So you have to develop, such art in your, professional, sense. So if you're really interested in diplomacy, you will have a chance also to develop, your capacity, as a person in the world. So from that sense, I think it is, challenging, for everybody if you would, try to become, to join, diplomatic services. And I think, I would like to encourage, all young people to join foreign service, and eventually, which is quite critical to preserve, peace and stability, in the whole world, particularly at a time of, sort of, uncertainties and even, chaos, which may prevail, at this juncture in this world. So why don't you try, everybody, your best, in joining foreign services, or, even joining like international organizations. Everybody has a big potential to develop, one's capacity.
What's your favorite place to visit in Japan?
Kyoto.
A secret talent that nobody knows about you.
I can fish.
Great. Great talent. A food item that you cannot live without.
Ah, beans.
And anything in Iraq particularly?
Oh, among Iraqi food, you mean? Masgoof.
Oh,
Masgoof.
Masgoof. Yeah, very
Grilled
delicious.
fish in an Iraqi way.
What's your favorite pleasure TV show or movie?
Oh, Gone with the Wind.
If you could switch jobs with any politician or diplomat, who would it be?
Um, I think I remain the same profession.
A language that you'd want to learn in the future.
Oh, well, actually, I learned already a lot, even like your language, old language, Sanskrit, when I was young. Well, maybe, I have to deepen more my knowledge about the Sanskrit, perhaps in the future. That's the most difficult language, actually.
And just the final question from this round. What's a favorite song that you keep listening to?
上を向いて歩こう. It's a sukiyaki song in, in the US. Nice song in Japanese.
Obviously, since you were stationed in Iraq, did you manage to listen to any of the Arabic songs?
Of course, a lot. Should I sing one song?
Sure, please.
Atini,
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Atini, Naiwarani, Fairuz, Lebanese one.
That sort of brings us to probably the end of a whole interview. And trust me, I mean, I never enjoyed speaking to someone before. Like it was such a fun interview with you.
Well, thank you so much, Zaid. I really enjoyed myself, talking to you. Seems like your club is very active with your leadership. So I wish you all the best to you, Zaid, and all students at the Leicester University. Big future for all of your careers.